Welcome, J. Robert Parker, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
I am absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for having me on.
Of course, it's a pleasure. And I have you on as a certified hypnotherapist. And I know when people hear about hypnotherapy, they think about all this movie stuff where they're like, oh my goodness, is he going to put me under some mind control where I'm not going to have control over my body? There's so much misconception when it comes
Mhm.
to hypnotherapy and that type of practice. Can you please share your experiences with your practice and what
Absolutely.
you really do to help the world?
So you you kind of pointed on kind of one of the first things I like to clear up, that hypnosis is not mind control. It's, if anything, the exact opposite. It is gaining control over your own mind. Uh Hypnosis isn't a parlor trick, it's not magic, it's not metaphysical. This is science, it's natural. Trance is a natural function of the human mind. We all experience it. There is no such thing as somebody that cannot be hypnotized. It is simply a natural function of the mind. You are in hypnosis a minimum of twice a day.
Mm.
30 minutes before you go to sleep, 30 minutes after you wake up, you are in hypnosis. You are hyper suggestible, as we call it. That's the reason behind morning affirmations, is because that is the time you are most naturally hypnotically suggestible. That's also why if you wake up in the morning and you tell yourself it's going to be a bad day, it's going to be a bad day. And so, to give it its scientific label, what hypnosis is it is a frequency of brainwave, and our brain produces different wavelengths for different purposes. For example, there is the alpha state, which is relaxation, the beta state, which is attentiveness, delta is sleep. Well, we have another state that is called theta, and theta can basically be considered our programming state. It is the pattern in which we can readdress our thoughts and behaviors, beliefs, actions, all of these things. Because everything in life is association and learned behavior, which is just association through action. We go through life with a script, basically, and that script exists in our subconscious. But whether or not that script is healthy, it's all positive, probably not. It's being human. We all become an adult and we all have issues to face. And the example that I like to give is, let's say you have a fear. Let's say you're afraid of dogs, and it stems from you got bit by a dog when you were a kid, and you're an adult now, and you logically know that dogs are not dangerous, that some are, some aren't, but they're fine. But the fear exists. Why does that fear exist? Because it's subconscious, and the way association and memory works, the conscious mind cannot affect change upon that memory or that association. So we can know something all day long. We can know that we need to eat better, live better, do better, whatever have you, and not do it. It's because of that subconscious association. And my job, my work, is to use those natural states of hypnosis to be able to facilitate rapid positive change. And that positive change comes in many forms. For some, it's overcoming trauma or fear. For some, it's weight loss or smoking cessation. For others, it's simply mindset, being able to be be more able to make healthy decisions, make healthy choices, have a healthy mindset. And the fascinating thing about this, when we talk about mindset, because I know that's what your show is about, so kind of what we're here to talk about today. Well, mindset goes beyond just simple thoughts. Mindset is neurology. And when I say that, I mean, why do you notice what you notice in the world around you? There are hundreds, if not thousands, of things going on around you at any given time, even here in our rooms. Can you feel your feet in your shoes? Can you notice your computer buzzing? Probably not until I mention those things. Well, we have a system, a physiological part of our brain called the reticular activating system. If you've ever heard of the law of attraction, the reticular activating system is the science behind it. It's what determines what we notice at any given time. A good example of this that I often give, unfortunately, it's the easiest because we've all experienced it, is depression. Whenever we're depressed, it doesn't matter what good we have in our life, what abundance we have, how positive everything is. When we're depressed, it's not that we don't care, we just don't see it. It is not within our perception. That's why. And so when we talk about mindset, we talk about what you see, what you accept into your world. And what you accept into your world is determined by an actual physical part of your brain. You can be shown a reticular activating system. So it's more than just thought, it's actual physiology.
Wow, that was all right. Thank you everyone for watching. That's the show.
Yeah, and we're good.
Wow, that probably been the most impressive opening here on Coaching in Session. And I don't just say that. I mean truly, honestly.
Thank you.
I've had some amazing guests, but the way you laid it out was so succinct from start to finish. We all have the ability to change.
Mhm.
It's just that we're just not thinking that way.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I ask my clients all the time, how many times have you ever said the phrase, that's just how it is, that's how I am?
Mm-hmm.
What makes that determination? How are you the way, why are you the way you are, and why can't that change? Fun fact about myself, I'm 39 now. I spent about a good 3 decades as one of the angriest, most negative people you would ever meet. And the reason for this, among other things, was I thought the world was bad and I saw around me bad things. And so that kind of validated my worldview. Well, I eventually come to learn, was I just talking about that reticular activating system? So why was I seeing bad things? Because I thought the world was bad. And that's why I was only seeing those things in my perception. There's a saying that I absolutely love, which is when all you have is a hammer, the whole world looks like nails.
Mm.
And that is really that whole concept to a T. If you expect nothing but bad out of yourself and the world around you, that is exactly what you will get and perceive. But there is a flip side to that. If you change that perception, that self-talk, that mindset, you can do the exact opposite. You can choose to see the good in the world around you and be a part of it. As somebody that's been on the other side of that equation, let me tell you, it's way easier on this side than it is thinking everything's bad.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, there's bad in the world. Yes, there's good in the world. What would you rather see? What would you rather be a part of? I spent the first part of my life absolutely miserable. And I made good money. I had neat jobs. I was a tattoo artist for 13 years, but I was utterly miserable with myself, with others, with the world around me. And what did I always say to myself? That's just how I am. It's just how the world is. That's the way it is. That's crap. Like here on the other side, let me tell you, that's crap. And anyone listening that has said those words and uses those words as the reason that they don't try to change, no, that that's not the way. That's not the way the mind works. That's not the way. I can't even say that's not the way the world works because see, I can't speak to that, but I can speak to the mind. And that's not the way the mind works. One of the things I always like to point out whenever you need to adjust your mindset, your perception, your way of thinking is what do you do in the morning? What's your first thoughts upon waking? What do you do? What do you think? And like I just said, you're naturally in hypnosis in those first 30 minutes. So how are you utilizing that time? What are you doing? Are you using it to feel dread for your day? Or you're using it to talk yourself down in that situation? Or you're using that to encourage yourself? Because the other fun fact about your subconscious, one of many, it cannot differentiate between fact and fiction. It's the reason that why when we watch a movie that we're very engaged in, we feel it. We feel the emotions of the characters. Why? It's fake. It's false. It's a dramatization. So why do we feel these things when we consciously know it? Because the subconscious doesn't know it. So when you tell yourself, I can't, I suck, I never will, the subconscious hears that and it accepts it as instruction.
Mm.
So it doesn't matter if you don't feel it in the morning or whenever. The way you talk to yourself needs to be viewed through that lens. Your subconscious is listening, and it's different than your conscious mind. So you kind of have to be your own cheerleader in a way. Tell yourself that you can, tell yourself that you will. Really, in truth, tell yourself that you already have. Whenever I talk about how to voice affirmations, it's not I will or I can. It's I am and I have. You speak it as if it is already your reality, and you let your subconscious scramble to catch up and make it so.
Mm.
Your subconscious is simultaneously just rock stupid and absolutely brilliant. It is the strangest thing to interact with, mainly because it doesn't perceive the same way our conscious mind does, doesn't speak the same way our conscious mind does. It's one of the main ways it speaks to us is through our dreams. I use dream interpretation quite a bit. And for anyone listening, uh, I don't mean dream interpretation by I went and bought a book that tells me what means what. That is not dream interpretation. That is crap. Uh, and the reason I point this out is, for example, in a lot of those books, they talk about how if you dream of snakes, it's like some ill omen or something like that. What if you raise snakes? What if you have pet snakes? What if you're a snake farmer?
Mhm.
Does it still mean that? No, because doesn't take into account your personal associations. So you can never possibly use something like that.
I want to go in a direction that maybe you have been before, maybe you haven't, but it's going to be talking about a sense of energy, seeing energy,
Mhm.
spiritual, that type of thing. When I first saw you, when we're getting ready to do the interview, and it could be my subconscious mind because I read your bio at some point in either, setting up the interview with you to come on the podcast, or just in my day work trying to understand who you were to figure out what type of conversation I was going to have. But I could tell you weren't the same person that you are today,
Mhm.
where you grew, right?
Mhm.
So I could tell that you went under some type of change, some type of challenge, the process of shifting your mindset, or just who you were as a person, right? I could just
All the
tell.
above.
Yeah, it's all the above. And I don't know what you would call it. Like I said, it could be just a subconscious thought, like I read your bio, but like I was able to see that. Do you think that's maybe just like how someone presents themselves, or is that going to be just kind of like a higher level of thinking in the mind?
I think it's a little of both.
Mm.
Um, if there is anything that this job has done to me, it's really make me question reality. And I don't mean that in a crazy way. I mean
Yeah.
that in an absolutely fascinating way. And we we understand each other as human. We are at our core communal creatures. It's why when somebody is sad near us, we feel sad and we feel the need to comfort them. It's why whenever we see someone who is close to us threatened, we feel defensive. We are deeply communal creatures. And when we get rid of just all the junk, all of like the preconceptions, all of our prejudices for ourselves and others, it lets us view people differently. And I've seen people that like I can tell that same thing that this person has been through and is on the other side of it, not even is going through it, but has been through it and has left it behind them. And I think we innately have that sense. It's why, because people always ask me, well, how come no one wants to be my friend? I don't have anyone interested in hanging out with me. And the energy they put off is just incredibly isolating and depressing. And we naturally avoid that. And it's one of those things. And I don't know what to call that. I don't know if that's spiritual, if that's quantum, if that's emotional, if there's any difference between those three things. But there is an unusual sense to so many things. One of the most interesting things I started to find, and it was one of those that like I kept myself for a little while until I eventually like reached out to some peers about it. And it happens exceptionally so in person, but even remotely, in that whenever I have somebody in trance, you can tell how your words impact. You can tell where that person's subconscious is. There's like a relationship to it. And I'm not a particularly metaphysical person. I base a lot of, or most of my practice in the base research and science of it. But even with that base research and science, there's some strange things that when it comes to human consciousness, when it comes to that interaction. And that's part of the reason why I love what I do so much, is because I used to think there was nothing left to study, nothing left to research outside of like the high sciences. And it's not that I'm not smart enough for that, it's that I'm not interested enough in that to dedicate myself. So I thought there was not much, not many new frontiers that were attainable.
Mm.
And I come to learn about hypnosis and consciousness research and all of these new things coming out now. And I realized that wasn't true, that in truth, we are right on the beginning cusp of some of the most fascinating research we've ever done, which is explaining who we are, why we perceive, why we can even be conscious. And I don't know if I'll get to live to see an answer to any of that, but we are on that path. And the work that I do is a part of that. Because why do we have this system in our mind that allows us to readdress our core programming, what makes us us? And I find that wildly fascinating because I've got my own hypnotherapist. Like she's one of my peers. I have a couple in truth, but one main one. So she knows me pretty well. And it never ceases to fascinate me that even knowing how the sausage is made, so to speak, it's still just as effective. I still have just as many revelations and progressions as any of my clients. That's really the biggest endorsement I can give, is that I use this on myself. And honestly, if all of these things could change me, if they could change my mind, they got to work on anyone. I'm a stubborn ass. I I cannot express that enough. But if it made me change, if it made me take the blindfold off or open my eyes or whatever metaphor you want to give it, it truly is powerful. It truly can do wonders for many people. And that's what my work consists of, is helping people gain that same inspiration, progress, realization, all of these things that I have. Because your subconscious has so many answers to questions you ask yourself every day. It never ceases to fascinate me how many times a client will put the answer to their problems in their paperwork. It's just right there. And I can't just point out and be like, hey, there's your problem right there. That's it. You wrote it down. That doesn't work. I can't just tell you this is the viewpoint that you have. I can, however, get you to come to that realization. I can give you the clues to where your subconscious ends up there, because a lot of suggestion isn't forcing you to do something. You can't actually do that. I can't ask you anything in hypnosis that you wouldn't want to do. If I give you a suggestion that you morally or ethically disagree with, it's like a bad dream, just wakes you up right out of it. Doesn't work. It's guiding that perception, that understanding, knowing how to speak to that subconscious. And I say that subconscious and not the subconscious because it's a deeply personal thing. One of the wisest things said to me about it was from a peer on Reddit, someone I'd never even met, who has a lot more experience than I do. And they said that hypnosis is just advanced communication,
Mhm.
because what else can it be if it's not this magical mystical thing that Hollywood points it out to be? What does that mean it is? It's just communication. It's just learning how to talk to somebody, how to get them to talk to you, how to ask the appropriate questions, how to gather someone's language, metaphors, expressions, and use that to speak to their subconscious in such a way that they bring about their own change. All hypnosis is self hypnosis. I don't do anything. I don't have a superpower that I'm can like magically put you in this state. I am a guide. The changes that you bring about, the states which you were able to achieve, that's all you. And I remind long-term clients about this, because even I have clients I've seen for years, because it's a learning process. You go deeper as you get more experience. And like now I've got people that can like taste and smell and experience in hypnosis. And they wake up like, did you know you could do this? Did you know this is a thing? Yeah, that's all you. I didn't do that. Because they're like, you made me smell this. No, I didn't. I suggested to you that there was a smell present, and
Mm.
your own mind gave you that smell. I am nothing but a guide, and you can be your own guide. If once you recognize that trance, hypnosis, the subconscious, all of these things are in a way simultaneously every day, but of another world and inseparable, even still, that's when it becomes easy. That's when you can use these ideas, these trance states, affirmations, suggestions to completely change yourself from the ground up. I did it. I don't
Mhm.
even tell you. Well, what's the hair club for men thing? I'm not just a spokesman. I'm also a client or whatever it was. Not that I've got any room to talk about the hair club,
Yeah.
but either way.
So you said so many good things there. And one thing that resonated with me that I wanted to kind of dive deeper into and then kind of give some examples was we have the ability to look at our inside, our thinking, and then question, why do I have this ability to do that?
Mhm.
And that's interesting because I typically don't think that way. I just have like a growth mindset where I'm like, I know I can, let's do this, let's get it done.
Mhm.
Not so much of why am I able to think this deeply? Why
Mhm.
am I able to see the way I see? Like asking those type of questions are quite profound.
Absolutely.
A little bit about me before before I, pass back the reins to you. I'm a former educator.
Mhm.
So I worked K to 12 and I got to see stages of development from, all the age groups of
Mhm.
learning. And I got really good at it, where I can look at a kid and I can see when they were struggling. I could look at a kid and I can see when they were, down and out, or they needed some assistance, or they were happy. There was just that nonverbal communication cues that were
Mhm.
just present. And one of the things I also did in college was I was a swim instructor, where if I was given a new kid to teach, I can actually tell how long it would take that child to learn how to swim. Sometimes I didn't even have to pick them up. I can just look at the child and I can say, why are they not able to swim?
Get in the
Right?
water, do
Right.
it.
And maybe it's just a stature, how they stood, how they spoke. It could be those subconscious levels of me understanding from the years of me teaching where I don't pay attention to them. I just understood over the years of me doing it. Oh, this is what is, or these are the signs of a swimmer
Do you
versus
know
someone who's not a swimmer.
how much of our communication is verbal?
With like 10%,
Seven.
7. Oh,
7% of our communication is speaking words to each other.
mm,
That means 93% of everything else you're telling people is not what you're saying.
mm,
And I would argue or agree that this being able to see your students and tell which one of those needs help, which one's excelling, etc., that is just becoming fluent, and whatever you want to call that, unspoken language, body language, all the different things that are that, it's becoming attentive to those things. It's oftentimes we call it emotional intelligence, but it's more than emotion. It's reading everything, and it transcends age, language, everything. You can go to China and express that you're hungry, that you're tired, that you're sad, that you need help, and be understood. How? They don't understand the words you're saying. You don't understand theirs. So, how can we express these concepts
mm,
those ways? And some people can't, don't speak that language for various reasons. And as anyone out there who's listening that does understand that, it's difficult to be able to interact with somebody who doesn't speak that language. But yeah, that's, I would say that absolutely that is what that was, the innate understanding of those thousand other things that people say that's not their words. And to even say what that thing is, it's nearly impossible because it's so many things. There's things that, like we talked about the reticular activating system, that we're just filtering out at any given time. But there's things that at that same time that notices that you don't. Like, how come when somebody's sad, do you know they're sad? Like, can you actually put that into words if they're not crying? Because
mm,
yeah, if they have a physical sign, they're crying, their head's down, whatever, then yeah, that's obvious. But many times we know when someone's sad, and they could look normal. They could be smiling and we know they're sad. Why? How is that? What are we seeing? What are we sensing that we know? And it's undeniable that we know because everybody's experienced it. Everybody's walked into a room and felt the vibe of the room. That's a real thing. One of the most fascinating things I saw in training, when they were demonstrating what hypnosis technically looks like, they had the subject hooked up to EEGs, heart rate monitors, all of these things to be able to show what happens to your body when you enter trance. First of all, it's wild because your heart starts to take on a sine wave. Instead of being the jagged up and down P waves, it starts to become rounded.
mm,
And as it begins to do that, your brain waves begin to match that signal. We call it synchronous alpha. That's not the weird part, though. The weird part is that everyone within about 15 feet of you will begin to synchronize their heart and brain waves to you.
mm,
So when we talk about feeling the vibe of a room and all that, how much of that is like actually signals that we are sending each other? We have the ability to affect each other without even touching one another. And that's why I said this job has really made me question reality. Because like there's all of these things that I've seen are science that really make me question a lot of the assumptions I had about the world around us, and realizing that 99% of reality is perception. Like, yeah, there's some core rules to the world around you. You ain't gonna jump off a cliff and fly, but everything else, but the hard rules of physics, completely up to interpretation. And realizing that is kind of one of the things that I feel made me become such a good hypnotherapist and counselor and coach and all of these things is that realization of the uniqueness of experience. And I had a random thought that came to my head at one point, that we're not all in the same boat. We are, however, all in the same storm.
Mm.
And the way that you see that storm, one, depends on the boat that you're in, and depends on your perception. And that's a lot of like dealing with trauma and things like that, because you can never change what has happened. You can change perceptions and associations. And it's not just trauma, it's everything. It's you. If you don't think that you can succeed, why? You can. And once you make the decision that you can, you will. And I'm sure someone out there is scoffing at that concept, but like, again, let me tell you, I was the one 10 years ago that would have told you that that's a load of crap. And I'm the one sitting here today telling you that is absolutely not. And it's not plucking things from the universe. It's the way your mind works.
Mm.
It is the way the subconscious is structured. If you want it, you can get it. Like, you can make it happen. It's all perspective. It's all mindset. It's all your personal viewpoints. And that's really it. And with it boils down to that old saying that I can't remember who quoted it. I want to say it was Ford. Whether or not you can or can't, whether you say you can or you cannot, you're right. You're right either way. Doesn't matter. If you say you can, you can. If you say you can't, you can't, and you won't. So why go for the option that doesn't fulfill you? Go for it. Try. No, succeed, fail, and move forward. Failure is regarded as a negative, and it should never be that. I have failed so hard so many times in life. I have seen rock bottom, I've seen sky high. Don't necessarily prefer either one of them. It all in the end comes down to perception, because I've been happy at my rock bottom. I've been miserable sky high. And at this point, I've worked with incredibly wealthy people who are just wildly insecure and miserable. And it really puts things in perspective. And we assume that like money buys happiness, and money buys relief from problems. Don't get me wrong, but you don't find happiness in that. And when I speak with my clients, those ones that are speaking to me about success and that orientation, I really encourage them to define that. What is success? Or anything really? People say you want to be confident. What is that even? What does that even mean? Does that mean you want to be able to speak in public, or does that mean you want to fist fight an alligator? What does confidence mean to you? And just like success. And if success does mean money, why? What do you intend on doing with that? And when does it stop? And where does that fulfillment kick in at any point? Because ultimately, with most of my clients, I end up talking about success, about moving forward, about getting what you want. And it seems something so incredibly basic to ask everyone to think of, but what do you want? And have you ever actually thought of that? So many times we I can't tell you how many people I've asked, what do you want? I want to be successful. Okay. What does that mean? I don't know. What? How could you ever hope to achieve something you cannot define? How can you ever hope for your mind to assemble the conditions for something that you can't define? And so that's when we talk about all of these things I've spoken of, the reticular activating system, mindset, all of that means nothing unless you know what you want out of life, and not just success or money or recognition. If you want those things, that's awesome. But what does that mean? And the more you define that to yourself, it becomes part of that reticular system. It becomes your vision, the lens with which you view the world through. And I'm a firm believer that if your intentions are good, you get what you want, you get where you're going. And because for almost 3 decades, I banged my head against that wall of trying to figure out why I couldn't make things work, why I could only achieve limited levels of success before I just got swatted back down. It was that intention. I had no intention. I just wanted money. Because why? Because I don't know toys. Why? They made me feel better. When I never answered why I needed to feel better and what was wrong to begin with. And once those were answered, it became easier to define what I wanted, what I needed. So tangential, I know. All of these things that I talk about all kind of come back to that, to defining your reality. Because as I've said many times, I don't know what reality means anymore. It's all perception.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's all perception, are you perceiving the reality that you want? Are you perceiving your ideal reality? And if you're not, why not? It's stopping you.
I have also worked with people who have achieved wild success. And those people you would think have it all.
Mm-hmm.
They have the money, fame, recognition. But when you really dig down deep into who they are, how they think, they're miserable. They're
Mm-hmm.
alone. They
Yeah.
have so much negativity in their
So much fear.
minds, fear.
Yeah.
And what I see is an opportunity for them to become humble,
Mm-hmm.
where if they can take some time to do some self reflection and they say, okay, why am I feeling this way? And what am I doing about it? Sometimes they feel a certain way, and then that what they do about it might be substance abuse, alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
drugs.
Yep.
You typically see that on court cases of, Hollywood stars. They were stars, and all of a sudden now they're nothing because of drugs or alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
The pressure got to them, and they didn't take time to say, okay, let me pay attention to what I need to pay attention to, rather than the world is moving so fast. My world is moving so fast. I can't focus on what really truly matters to me.
Mm-hmm.
So they lose focus of life,
Absolutely.
and they just live in
And
this void.
yeah, and that happens with everybody.
Mhm.
Everybody can get lost. I got lost. And just in a way, the hell we create. And that really is what it is. It's what we create. Because the
Mhm.
only person who can ever give you permission to feel a certain way or any way is you. And you are the most hypnotically suggestible to yourself. And so when we reinforce negative viewpoints and we don't address what we need in those moments or in life in general, that's when we become unhappy.
Mhm.
And it's something that I see reflected in my own past. Ultimately, I'm grateful for my past and all of the things that I've went through. This was the thing I struggled with a lot. And I always like to throw this out there because there's always somebody listening who isn't proud of either who they were or who they are or who they're becoming. The person I am now is not the same as that person was. So much so that when I first kind of really started seeing this change in myself, I felt alien. That old me felt alien. I had the memories, but like I couldn't understand the thought process anymore. And it was really a struggle of how do I hold who I know I am now with who I was and all the things that I've done and the things that I've lost and the people that I've hurt, and all of that. And the answer to that is, and this is incredibly important for anyone out there who thinks that their past or their present will prevent them from being something good. Those things are the reason that I'm able to be who I am. That if I can sit here and honestly say, I like myself, I love myself, and that I hold myself in high esteem and high worth, do I have any choice but to be thankful and grateful for everything that I've been and done? Because if any of that was different, I wouldn't be who I am today.
Mm.
And I wouldn't have the same regard for myself that I have today. So what choice do you have other than to look at everything you've done and just say, okay, well, I use this to help people now. I use this experience to understand. I use this experience to further my work and my communication with people who need it. So doesn't matter what you're doing, where you are, if where how low you are, you can at any point decide that that's not okay anymore and start to change. And it doesn't happen overnight. And it's a series of struggles and realizations. But there is something different at the other end of that. And the thing that's different really is everything. Because when you make that change, when you make that decision, it's like you change the lens you are viewing the world through. And it's absolutely wild because it's not even like I have to make myself act a certain way or think a certain way. This is simply how I am, who I am. I realize what that is now. I'd always heard that phrase, authentic self, and I never understood what that meant. And I had spent so many years trying to be this tough asshole tattoo artist who just made money, didn't care. I had this image, this expectation of myself, and it just wasn't real. That wasn't who I was. That wasn't what I actually wanted. That's just what I thought people would like, or I should be, or I don't know. But when I actually started allowing my mindset to turn to what I actually wanted, what was in my heart of helping people, of being there, of being that helping hand, it changed. And it didn't change me at my core. I'm still the same recognizable oddball that I've always been. I still crack the same weird jokes. I still do all the same odd things that I've always done. I just do it with a smile now. And I do it actually happy. It makes all the difference in the world. And if in the end I had to go through 3 decades of crap to get here, it's cheap for the cost. It's
Mm.
worth it because I've met people who never found that out. And I jump on it whenever I have like a 20-year-old client come my way that's talking about like some of the same things I talked about when I was their age. I'm just like, you have to pay attention now. You are doing good. You have made these thoughts now. Don't go down my road. And I'm just here to help people now. And that's honestly what I could say what I do. And for the first time in my life, not only do I wake up every morning excited to wake up and meet that day, but I could look in the mirror and actually feel good for the first time. And that's substantial because I never thought I would get that. I thought that that comfort was something that happened to other people, not to me.
Mhm.
And that's crap. That's not even remotely true. And anyone out there that has ever thought that, no, you absolutely can be happier than you are right now. You can change that mindset to something positive, to seeing the good. And when you start to actually have that intent, you begin to do things like notice what people need without them ever having to say a word to you. Because now the lens which you view the world through is one of love and concern. And you notice those things now. You notice when a stranger at the bus stop is feeling down and maybe needs someone to talk to him. And that's awesome. That's where we need to be in this world. I go back to something I said before. We're communal as humans. That's it. That's all there is. Race, culture, ethnicity, all of these things, that's bullshit. That's labels, that's words. We're human, each and every one of us, and we understand each other. If we simply change our intent, if we change our intent, if the way we go through this world, if we go through this world wanting to ease everyone's burden that we can, not to make that our own burden, but to simply do the small things day to day that we can do to make everyone else's life around us a little better. And that'll make our life better. And what happens when a stranger's randomly nice to you and makes your day a little better? You carry that with you throughout the rest of your day. And I thought for a long time about that, because it's a weird time that we live in. There's weird stuff going on, and people feel pretty helpless right now. And that is poison to the human soul. Hopelessness, helplessness. You can't have that. We have to be able to feel like we are doing something. So I had to think, what's something simple and small that I can encourage in everyone that I speak to, and my clients, and the interviews that I do, and the conversations that I have. And I finally came up with it. It's just that. Just go be nice to someone. Just once a day. If that's all you can manage, no matter what, just pick one person. Just be nice to them. And by that, I just mean open a door and tell them you hope their day's good. Help someone across the street. Ask someone if they're okay and listen for a little bit if they're not. And even if they are okay, tell them they should have a wonderful day, that it was good to meet them. And that small thing, so insignificant, resonates way further than we have any ability to comprehend. Because in the same way as if that person cuts us off, we'll carry that through our day and just be annoyed. If that person is kind to us and uplifts us for no reason, just a stranger, someone we never even knew their name, that sticks with us. I remember people who did that for me 20 years ago, and it still sticks with me. I don't remember their name anymore, but I remember their face, and I remember some of the things that they told me. And if it can stick for decades, why not do that? How much does it really take for you just to be nice, kind to one person? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Complete minimal effort. But how does it make you feel for the rest of the day? It's probably not going to be the only person you do that to after that. And what have you done for them? You never know. You could have put a smile on their face. You could have saved their life. You don't know. But all you had to do was just say a kind word. As someone that's been someplace dark, I understand that sometimes that's all it takes to talk you off the edge. It's just that one kind word, just that one person that understands. Because it's, again, to go back, something we talked about, it's more than just words. The words are almost insignificant in the face of what everything else is. Because the fact of the matter is, when you are kind to somebody else and you mean that kindness, you truly wish them a good day and truly feel like it was a pleasure to meet them. They know, even if they don't consciously know, they innately know, because that's what it means to be human. And so when we feel that kindness and we give that kindness, we make the world around us more kind. You will see the effects of it, guaranteed, because even if you don't see it in the world around you, it'll affect change upon that reticular activating system. You will begin to notice the good that was always there. You'll begin to notice the blessings that were always there, and then change your perspective. Again, I did it.
To get maybe like a last thing from you,
Mhm.
and this could be a multiple answer, or it could just be a one thing, or it could be your own interpretation.
Mhm.
how do you view yourself in the sense of when you help someone? Do you see yourself as the light in someone's darkness, as the hand that helps someone who's drowning so they can stay afloat, as the parachute that helps someone who's falling to their death land safely, someone who's lost in the forest as the breadcrumbs to get them out of that forest?
It really changes depending upon who I'm speaking to. I have a saying on my website. It's like the first thing that pops up that kind of really summarizes who I am. I guess it's my mission statement as those things go. It's basically to be the light for those that have lost their way, and to basically be a guide for all of my confidence that I have. I don't view myself as anything great. I'm a person, I'm a human, I'm the same as absolutely everyone else on this planet. And that's not reductive. That's a great thing. That's a noble thing. I feel like a guide. I feel like that's my duty because, like I said, everyone's got their own answers. We know what we need. I'm just there to show you that you have those resources and show you how to use them. Like I said, I don't have a superpower. I'm not giving you anything. I simply use the lessons that I learned with myself to get myself out of the dark, to help everyone, someone else. And if someone's not ready for that, that's fine. There's a quote that I really like. If you are ready to leave the darkness, I will guide you out. But if you do not want to leave, I will sit with you and watch the stars.
Mm,
And that's really what it is. I'm here to support you until such time as you're ready for that change, and then I'm here to facilitate that change.
mhm.
And I don't know what you call that. I don't know what that role is, but it's just kind of the natural thing that I do at this point. And it's leaked over into every part of my life. So I have a friend. God help me. I hope he's not listening. Um, he's the guy I play video games with. He's my Xbox buddy. And he's much younger. He's like in his early 20s, and he's got a lot of confidence problem. He's not very good at quick decision making. He doesn't have that. So I use video games to make him. I always subtly have that, oh, so where are we going now? What are we doing? And reinforcing that positive decision making. The moral of this story is I can't even play video games anymore without having this weird, like, need to be able to help people. Which is cool. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It makes me feel great. So I can't really argue with it, but it does make the games weird. But as I said, God, I hope he's not listening because the jig is up if he is. Because he'll just say he doesn't know.
He'll know, but he'll know, but I'm sure he will appreciate
Oh,
that
I'm sure he would. I'm sure he would. But
in the same regard. If
yeah,
you can, please tell people where they can find you, your best social media
absolutely.
websites or website.
Easiest way to find me is through my website. It's got links to all of my social media, everything, if that is your thing. But it's www.twinravens.org, twinravens.org. And that is our website, Twin Ravens Hypnotherapy and Research LLC. It's mainly just me. So if you send out a message request or set up a consultation, it's going to be me that you're speaking to. But otherwise, I encourage anyone that has heard what I've had to say today and has questions or concerns or just wants to reach out to ask about working with me, don't hesitate. My metaphorical door is always open. I work fully remote, so I can work with anyone anytime, which thank God, because I live in a very, very small town.
Perfect. Yes, you heard the man. Check out his website if you're interested in working with him. All his information will be in the description box below. So I would like to thank you, J. Robert Parker, for coming on Coaching in Session from the start to the finish. Words of wisdom, nuggets of gold. This episode, I'm going to do my utmost to make sure as many eyes and as many ears can get a
Awesome.
hold of your words, because what you
Awesome.
said today is so powerful. And I don't just say that as a mindset coach, I say that as a human being too.
Thank you.
because I know what it takes to come from crap and then create something
Mhm.
noteworthy. And many people right now might be dragging through that crap and they don't know how to get out.
Yeah.
So if they can hear these words, I think it's going to be a wonderful place for them to begin. And then for you to be that beacon of light, that beacon of hope for people to begin that first step and to make that initial thought of, I want to change, I
That's
can
all it
change, and I
takes.
will change.
All it
So,
takes is that first thought. I had
and
to be able to give that. That's why I do this. That's why I'm here, to be
mhm.
able to do that work, deliver that message. So thank you very much for having me on. Sorry for all the tangents and tirades. I get paid to talk.
No, well worth it. And so I'm
Awesome.
going to have all this up for everyone to see. But everyone, in the meantime, check him out. His website, all his information is going to be in the description box below. J. Robert Parker.
See you guys.